following program is a peer-to-peer advice show and does not diagnose mental health conditions. If you're seeking social services, please call or text 211 or go to 211.ca.
Hello, listeners around the world on radio streaming and podcast services. This is Not Therapy. I'm Liana Kersner, and I am not a therapist, but I am your source for navigating the madness of mental health, using my top 10 sayings for going good crazy. This week, I'm talking about confidence, and I want to get personal because the generalizing about this topic is part of, in my opinion, the problem. And ironically, I'm going to need a lot of confidence this week because I've been fighting with my internet provider because my service is a mess. And so I haven't had time to prepare for the show the way I normally do. So we're pantsing this program this week. Here we go, But at this point, it's pretty clear that self-esteem culture is, I'm going to come right out and say it, a failure. Anxiety is higher than ever, especially in younger generations. Confidence is more poorly understood than ever, and mental health language is doing more harm than good. We're circling around words instead of truly understanding concepts, and enough is enough. Well, I just made a note, if you heard me being distracted there, of another internet outage. While I'm dealing with this, oy vey, schmear. There's a reason the company I'm with rhymes with hell. Confidence isn't about the particular objective difficulty of a given task. Confidence is about our belief in our ability to meet a given task, to solve the problem, to overcome the challenge. And we're trained to be so terrified of making mistakes due to intense social punishments when we make a mistake. I have seen this full on display this last week. And, the people who write about this stuff, the culture, it blames the internet. But this isn't the internet. This starts in the home. It's continued in classes and in real life friend groups. It's just no longer cool to make mistakes and learn from them. It's cool to practice extreme social shunning, hide from the world, and rip other people apart, mainly on social media these days, for very little. And that's seen as expressing yourself, free speech, yo. But since everyone's talking, no one's listening. And I'm so tired of all of this. The disconnect between what we know is healthy and what we see as normal, it's just getting, the gulf is just getting more and more vast. Now, this is all circling around why we misunderstand confidence. Confidence is not something that anyone has across the board, right? Confidence is situational. It's fluid. We can have days where we feel more confident than others. Everybody does, right? It doesn't matter how good someone's self-concept is, how good someone's self-worth is, how good someone's self-esteem is. Some days we just don't wake up confident, right? Then we have topics and situations where we're more confident than others. And not being confident in a given situation is not a moral failing. It's often a product of environment. And let's break down the basics, right? The reason I say it's a product of the environment, because we live in a perpetual feedback loop. This is how human beings learn and grow, right? When we're kids, we're given this perception of ourselves by the adults that look after us. And that starts forming our self-concept, who we are as an individual. And most people don't even get to do that these days because of this expectation that we subsume ourselves in this group identity. Say the right things, do the right things, back the right causes, wear the right products, instead of figuring out who we are as an individual, figuring out what our values are, figuring out where the world ends and we begin. Who are we? A vast number of people reach adulthood not knowing. And that's okay. I mean, that's a solvable problem. But it's impossible to figure out what you're good at and therefore be confident about stuff if you don't even know who you are. And even people who do know who they are, seeing that as inherently worth something, well, we're not great at instilling that as a culture. I mean, politicians are sinking lower and lower into name calling and just accusations. And that's very telling, because if you see yourself as having inherent worth as a human being, you recognize that other people also have inherent worth as human beings. And the best way to validate your own worth is to validate the worth of the people that you engage with, meaning they're responsible for them, you're responsible for you. And, primarily at the end of the day, in order to develop healthy confidence, we have to be accountable to ourselves. If we are perpetually stooping into tearing other people down, we are going to be afraid of the world and ultimately feel not just worthless, but almost or definitely exist in a paradigm that worth doesn't even matter. And I see that, well, why did you call that person a name? Well, because I was angry. Well, being angry doesn't mean you necessarily go there. You can be angry and still in control. Well, I lost control. Well, did you? Did you really? Because that's a step back and reassess moment when, you can't stop your thumbs from going on your phone. You can't, in the case of, sharing videos of the Obamas' heads on monkeys' bodies. The president of the United States, not only did he not watch the entire video he wanted put up there, but he refused to apologize because, it is kind of unacceptable that nobody was screening those videos, but that was a mistake. And his inability, Trump, to ever admit error is the height of fragility. And yet his followers see that as a strength. And it's not. Because people who lack that attention to detail, it suggests that he is running so fast because, maybe he can't be alone with his own thoughts. He needs that constant affirmation. He needs the adulation. He needs the praise. And true self-worth means you like it when people like what you do, but you don't need it all the time. And the fact that you see more and more young men sucked into this ecosystem where they are not building self-worth. Their self-concept is being destroyed through things like looks maxing. This is just, off the cuff looks maxing. Men being as stupid as women were in the 80s and 90s. Like, why? Well, women are just as stupid now with all the surgery and filler in their 20s. And there's intense social pressure to do this. And the question is why? Why are we so looks obsessed? Why are we so youth obsessed? It really does come down to the idea that what is seen, what can be immediately commodified, is the only thing that has any worth. But what you learn, is somebody who did the TV and somebody who did the modeling, you are never pretty enough. You are never sexy enough. You are never desirable enough, hot enough. It is never, ever enough. And, well, we all get older. As much as we fight it, we all get older. It's strange to be afraid of the inevitable, but people are. And it all says something deeply wrong about our culture. And I haven't even gotten to the self-esteem or confidence part of this. I did self-concept and I did self-worth. And this is a pyramid. These layers and they interplay with each other. And people talk about, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but we don't talk about the building blocks of self nearly enough. And I have to go to our first commercial break. Do you have a story you think would be good for the show? Are you interested in sponsoring the show? NotTherapyShow.com is the website. Liana at NotTherapyShow.com is my direct email. At NotTherapyShow on socials. Confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, self-concept. Where we're going wrong, how to get it right when we come back on It's Not Therapy.
The following program is a peer-to-peer advice show and does not diagnose mental health conditions. If you're seeking social services, please call or text 211 or go to 211.ca.
We are back on It's Not Therapy. I'm still Liana Kurzner. I'm still not a therapist. We are talking about confidence, where it goes wrong, how to get it right. And I did the sort of building blocks of self. Well, 2 out of 3. We did self-concept, who you are as an individual, self-worth, the idea that all humans deserve basic dignity in treatment. And then there's self-esteem, that understanding of what you're good at, what unique skills and values, you bring to the world. It's often used interchangeably with self-worth, but I personally believe that it is its own thing, right? If you imagine self-worth is all people deserve a basic level of decency in how they are treated. And unless you truly believe that, and unless you truly live in accordance with those values and treat others based on that belief, I don't think you can ever really have healthy self-esteem, because being able to accurately assess your capabilities, being able to navigate the subjectivities and trial and error of human relationships, and then, seek and strive and set goals and meet them. You can't figure out what a healthy goal is, what a reasonable goal is. Healthy goals are based on things you can control. Top 10 phrase. You can't accurately assess that if you don't have that we throw words around like resilience, but we don't really think about what that means, because self-esteem really is what you have when the world tries to take everything away from you, right? It is that hope for yourself. It is that belief that you are actually good at things. You have a unique perspective and skill set and talents and just basic, neat individuality to offer the world. And that is very different, at least for me, than the idea that all people have value and deserve dignity just for being people, right? A lot of people never meet their potential. A lot of people don't develop, skills based on sort of their inherent interests and abilities. Some abilities are overvalued, I think, by society. Some abilities, some skills are undervalued by society. I think we're just coming out of an age where, the abstract concept of intelligence was given too much value, and wisdom, an understanding of people, an understanding of the self, sort of that connection, that has been really undervalued. It has been sacrificed at the altar of what's referred to as productivity, efficiency, but what it really is this belief that we are only going to succeed if we step on other people. Other people have to fail for us to succeed. And that's not how humans were designed to work. We're designed to work cooperatively as part of a group. That's why we have a part of our brain that is obsessed with where we fit in the world. And that predated social media. Social media has just increased, it's accelerated the upward and downward social comparisons. And downward social comparisons tend to give a lot of people a, emotional sugar rush. Like, oh, I'm doing better than that guy, therefore I'm doing okay. And society encourages us to think of that person who's not doing great as lazy or stupid, or, it's these inherent, well, they deserved to fail. But that is a fallacy. We can control our own behavior. We can do things to maximize opportunities. If you never leave the house, you're probably not going to get opportunities, but we can't control, we can't give ourselves our own opportunities. And I'm someone who has created jobs for myself my entire career because I don't interview or audition well. And I know that about myself. I am a very good worker. I am a very good team member. I am not good at figuring out what that executive HR person or casting agent wants me to say and do. So I am not good right at the beginning of that process. And, every so often I catch myself beating myself up about it. And then I'm like, look, the reason you're not good at that is exactly why you're good at a lot of other things. Because authenticity is, it was for so many years that piece of driftwood I clung to in like the stormy seas of life, right? Because when you work in anything public, people say utterly awful stuff about you. And you do have moments where you wonder, am I just totally lacking in self-awareness? And, are these people right about me and I am wrong? And it does take some work to go, all right, what do we know? What are, objective facts about what went down? And when you sit back and look at the facts, it's like, no, the nefarious intent that people claim I have just wasn't there. There's a difference between an honest mistake and malicious action. And unfortunately, I think so many people go through life without that self-worth pillar, because if you think of self-esteem as sort of the above ground part of your emotional house, and you think of boundaries as the fence around your emotional house, so you can let company in and, get them to leave when you want your space back. But, self-worth is that steady foundation. And if you don't truly believe, this is something that I learned in trauma therapy years ago. It was a hard-earned lesson. If you don't believe that all human beings deserve basic decency and dignity, you can't build, you can't thrive, you can't achieve because you're terrified all the time. If you truly believe that it is just the way of the world for other people to come in and just wreck everything you've built, and you can't do anything about that is just the way it is. If that's your idea of fairness, of just zero-sum, dog-eat-dog, you're going to be too afraid to strive. And I see a lot of people out there who are frozen. They cannot take risks because they're not so much afraid of failing as they are afraid of the social savaging that people get for failing. And this is something we can do something about. And this is where I'm coming into the idea of confidence. Because confidence isn't really, yes, I will definitely do this. I don't think that anybody who isn't, self-deluded can honestly say that to themselves. Healthy confidence is what I tend to tell my teams when we're trying a new initiative, especially in the mental health space, because of course, we're trying to backstop, plug holes in the system. We're not just, doing what the system has always done. I find that uninteresting. The system does what it does well. It's that, 55% of the people that the system doesn't actually effectively work for, they need different interventions. And so we try things, and I say to the team, from the outset, this may not work. We're in uncharted territory. And I don't believe in fail fast, fail often, the Silicon Valley mantra. I believe that learning is its own success. Lindsey Vonn, who rather spectacularly, tore her ACL 9 days before she was scheduled to compete in the Olympics, skied anyway, and then broke her leg in 2 places. Her message to people was, I tried. And some people can say, skiing competitively with a torn ACL is not confidence. It's maybe poor judgment, but, that's the thing. Dignity of risk, going back to dignity again, means that sometimes you gotta support people in trying, even if you think it's nuts, even if you think it's dangerous. People are individuals, and individuals have different needs. And I will tell you that failing doesn't feel great. Making mistakes doesn't feel good. But what feels worse is the knowledge that you never tried. You never put your hat in that ring. You never attempted to do that thing that your gut was pulling you towards, as disgusting as that metaphor might be. So let's talk more about that after the break and my enlightening experiences with talking to large language models, the chat bots, Chat GPT, Google Gemini, that stuff on this topic. Yikes. After this, do you have a story you think would be good for the show? Are you interested in sponsoring the show? Liana at nottherapyshow.com. At Not Therapy Show is the social medias where there's exclusive content there as well as excerpts from the show. And also Liana at Not Therapy Show is my direct email. Thank you to the people who come in and pitch their people and pitch themselves as guests. That's where I get most of my guests on the show. People just find me, which is a nice feeling. Gives me some confidence. Building confidence the right way, not the phony way, when we come back on It's Not Therapy.
The following program is a peer-to-peer advice show and does not diagnose mental health conditions. If you're seeking social services, please call or text 211 or go to 211.ca.
We're back and it's not therapy. I'm still Liana. I'm still not a therapist. We are still talking about confidence, how to build it. And I said I'd talk about AI because it's trendy, but also I have been experimenting with these chatbots, the large language models, because more and more of my clients are using them and my friends are using them. And I've had these experiences where people ran conversations that we'd had through these chatbots to ask things like, was she mad at me? And I wanted to see how accurate these bots were at analyzing these sorts of things. And even though in that case, the bot said, no, she wasn't angry at you. She was being stern and emphatic, but there's no trace of anger. I put in some things that I sort of knew what the motivations were, but explained it to the bot the way a person who's hurt and angry would. And these bots are trained to keep you talking. They're designed to extend the conversation because the way they're trained is based on user feedback. The bot will tell you this. Basically, people will use the bots in testing. They'll assign, was this good? Was this bad? And they found that the bots get better reviews when, one, they shamelessly flatter the user, which backfired on me. But I say shameless because these things have no shame. They have no consciousness, right? But also they try to figure out which prestige prose, TM, speaking style is going to appeal to you the most. And for some reason, Google Gemini specifically told me that that the bot determined that a radical honesty style was the one that I would keep engaging with the most. And I said to the bot, there's no such thing as radical honesty. There's just honesty. Radical honesty is just branding brutality to make it seem like a good thing for people who don't want to work on their tact, right? You are very right. Because a language predictive model can't be honest because it doesn't have a consciousness. Similarly, it can't lie because it doesn't have a consciousness. It kept referring to itself as a mirror onto the user. And the more I use this thing, the more depressed I started to feel. Because I started putting in, stuff about my own past. And obviously I've got a lot of traumatic stuff in my life. And the bot was really bleak. And I thought it was interesting that the minute you told it not to indulge in the shameless flattery, it just thought you wanted it to tell you that everything was hopeless. It kept going, it ends with these questions at the end to keep the conversation going, right? And it's like, do you feel that this has left you feeling like it's better to just do the bare minimum? Are you checking out of life? And it started saying, this is not giving up. This is seeing the world for what it really is. And it's like, my God, I have landed in the manosphere. And I even had to check the bot multiple times on advising people to de-escalate conflicts by using the phrase, I'm sorry you feel that way, which is a known passive-aggressive phrase. And no matter how many times I corrected the bot, it would slip back into, I'm sorry you feel that way, because it was just predicting the next thing that the bulk of data on the internet told them was a mirror on humanity. And this is fascinating. I was just, wow. One, these things are terrible at giving interpersonal advice. Two, this is the benchmark now. This is where we're at. This was a mirror of society and what the average person on the internet thinks is acceptable. Of course, our confidence is shot. If we see passive aggression and just managing people, having really negative assumptions about their intents, if this is normal, there's no wonder people are walking around so unhappy. And I do think that part of the erosion of confidence, is an erosion of trust. If it is normal to constantly think that every friend you have, every romantic partner you have is just shining you on, is just being nice and not being honest with you about how they really feel about you, well, of course our confidence is going to be shot, right? Who do we have? What's our foundation? Who do we have to lean on to support us when things get rough? No one. Everyone is walking around feeling like a burden to other people and therefore not connecting. Or people are walking around arrogant, flinging, "I'm sorry you feel that ways" around and assuming the worst of other people because a chatbot told them this was so with, prestige pros certainty. And they actually are sapping the energy of the people around them. And of course, if you assume the worst about people, you have to expect them to assume the worst about you. And that is no way to live. It really isn't. That's not going to help your confidence. And we live in an age where people share memes on social media where, they talk about a text chat stalls for a bit, right? You see the 3 little dots and then they go away and there's no response. And apparently among, Gen Zers, the immediate assumption is, oh my God, they hate me. And I put myself in that place. And when I see that, I think, oh, they got pulled away, or they are busy, or they're driving. I hope they're not texting while driving. What's with those 3 dots, right? Or they're just busy. They will get back to me. I don't suddenly assume someone hates me. That's a very strong statement because of one phrase. And if you have never lived in an environment where someone can still connect to the warm feelings they have for you, the love, the mutual respect, even when they're upset or they're frustrated or they're hurt by you or they're angry at you, well, of course you're not going to be able to build any real confidence. Your entire life is built on sand. And someone can just come over and kick over the sandcastle that is everything you've built because of one wrong phrase. And I talk to a lot of people of all ages who do believe that if they stick their head up, they're going to get it taken off. And if they actually share what's important to them, what matters to them, really showing who they are on a values level, even their friends will mock that. And I do find there was this guy who accused me of mocking him this week because I said he was wrong about something. And if anybody's wondering what I said he was wrong about, it was the idea that the absence of toxicity is all that is necessary for health. Now, he claims he didn't mean that, but that is what he said. But I provided an example of why that was wrong. And I said, avoiding poisonous berries doesn't mean you don't need to actively forage for healthy food. You still have to eat something. And he claimed I was mocking him. To me, if I bother to engage with an idea that someone has, that's the opposite of mockery. That's respect. What the guy said was significant enough. And I thought, okay, if this guy believes that, other people do too. Let's address it. He saw that as the exact opposite of what my intents were. And he blamed me. And my thought is that if someone can't accept that, yes, it is real that he felt mocked, but also accept that it is real that I was actually respecting his idea enough to address it, well, you can't build, you can't trust. Both framings have to be seen as valid. And what I've realized just in the last couple of years is that takes a certain amount of confidence regarding our ability to self-advocate to make space for both your frame and another person's frame. Most people can't do it. And personally, this is a big swing, but I believe in it. If we get this down, we begin to crack the confidence code. And apologies to Katty K. She wrote a book called The Confidence Code, co-wrote. I don't remember off the top of my head who the other co-writer was. See, not as prepared as I usually am pantsing this show. But we're going to talk about how this works and why I think this is so central to confidence. One thing you can do to improve your confidence in other people and their confidence and a bunch of good stuff. This is infectious. This is a chain reaction. When we come back after this final break, questions, comments, any feedback, concerns, Liana at nottherapyshow.com is my direct email. Nottherapyshow.com is the website. At nottherapyshow on social media when you can see excerpts of this show and additional content. Confidence. I'm going to show you one way to start. It's weird. One weird trick. Yeah, I'm doing that cliche. I got it from a chatbot when we come back on It's Not Therapy.
The following program is a peer-to-peer advice show and does not diagnose mental health conditions. If you're seeking social services, please call or text 211 or go to 211.ca.
We're back on It's Not Therapy. I'm still Liana Kirsner. I'm still not a therapist. We are still talking confidence, self-worth, self-concept, self-esteem. And I said before the break, I made a big promise that I was going to show you one thing that involves listening and communicating that really helps, one, check your confidence, see if you're actually confident in your position in a given discussion, and two, really does help build confidence. I have found this incredibly useful for me because in everyone's life, there will be conflict. We don't like it, but we have to face it. And being terrified of it actually creates more conflict because we don't deal with the conflicts when they're small. They get huge. And, when you're in the media, as I am, that's still weird to say in the media. It's like it's this box, which makes me feel like a cat. So that's good. Cat, inbox, me in media. Anyway, rambling. I find it a real challenge to deal with people who are bent, they need to believe that I am doing something to deliberately attack and mock and, embarrass them when, from my position, I know I'm not trying to do that. What it looks to me is that they are transferring, they are deflecting and projecting their own overwhelming embarrassment. In the example I gave before the break, that the guy said something that was just wrong, and I had a really solid argument for why it was wrong. And instead of him sitting with the idea that it's embarrassing to be wrong when you come in with false bravado and false confidence, it's easy, just do this. And then somebody pops your balloon unintentionally, but just, logically, wait, this doesn't make sense. A is not the absence of B. Instead of going, wow, I got embarrassed because I was wrong, it's you mocked me, you made me. And if anything shows a lack of confidence, shows a profound insecurity, it really is that assumption. There's so many people that I have encountered that hold deep grudges against me, that insist I'm, this nefarious witch. I'm a good witch, thank you. But because, and it really does seem like, since they're dumping it all on me, they can't look at their own behavior. They can't even look at the idea that they may have made a mistake or unintentionally upset someone. And they say they didn't mean to, they didn't mean to, they didn't mean to. But the thing about not meaning to is if you're not extending the exact same benefit of the doubt to the other person, they're not going to believe you didn't mean to, because you're assuming everybody else is just deliberately messing with you. And most people, tend to assume that everybody approaches the world the same way they do. It's this tell that may not be true, but it communicates so much. And so it's better to go, okay, I felt mocked. That is the way the guy felt. Okay, now what did being mocked make him feel? Embarrassed, probably, right? And yeah, I can accept that. I've validated that. But I am not going to agree that it was some deliberate attempt on my part, because it wasn't. The guy got mad, walked away in a huff, literally told me to have a nice life. And I couldn't help this. This wasn't the sweetie pious thing I could have said, but I just said, just keeping up the dramatics, huh? I think I said A, actually. Keeping up the dramatics, A. All right, whatever. And, was that perfect behavior on my part? Nah. Was it authentic behavior on my part? Yeah. And at that point, I was more interested in keeping my own dignity intact and doing what I needed to do to not feel walked on than, I was concerned with sparing this guy's feelings. Because sparing someone's feelings and sparing someone's dignity are not the same. Disagreeing with someone may embarrass them. People don't like being wrong. Some people are better at handling being wrong than others. But I am confident that I did not mock the guy, because I know how much of my thinking went into, and this is true of every story I share, every concept I examine. I take a moment, even now, I'm validating this guy is a person. And everybody deserves a certain basic dignity, meaning don't call them stupid. Don't summarize their entire character about a single mistake. Don't generalize. Even when I told him he was coming across as insecure. That's not saying you are insecure. It's just focusing on how they were coming across. And I find every time I make these distinctions and I set my boundaries on what I will accept. And I look back and I go, okay, I did make space for their perspective. And all I asked was for equal space for mine. They weren't willing to agree to that, And the I didn't mean to people of the world, I find are the absolute worst for this. They want absolute validation, repeated validation from me that I see they didn't mean to. Their theory of the case is that should make it, majority better. And that's just not reality because I already assumed they didn't mean to, right? Or if I thought they meant to, there would be no conversation. That would be it. Bye-bye. You don't talk to people who are deliberately cruel. That's bad happy math. And I find that these people who are so, I didn't mean to, they are the slowest to acknowledge that the other person isn't deliberately attacking them or coming at them or mocking them or whatever the thing they're afraid of, whatever insecurity is getting tripped. They don't sit with the idea the other person isn't meaning to do it either. And that does change how you approach the problem, how you solve the conflict. Because if you think somebody's deliberately doing it, geez, walk away. That's awful. They have to acknowledge that was wrong on their own. You can't force them. And, when they're willing to be more decent, to treat me with the dignity that I deserve, we'll talk. I only continue a conversation. I only try to work it out with people who I truly believe did not mean to. But I insist that that's a two-way street. And that's hard. You cannot control, be the hero of your own story and not anyone else's. You can't control other people. And it's really disappointing, the number of people who cannot, and I truly believe that they can't meet halfway because they lack the confidence to sit with the fact that I felt mocked, I felt embarrassed, but it wasn't deliberate. Because that changes the whole thing. That's a moment of vulnerability as opposed to they're coming to get me and I have to fight and I have to make my last stand. All the comic book stuff that, hey, I love, but I see the downside on sometimes, right? And it is that comfort with the degree of vulnerability where confidence grows from. Try it, right? Just try. Equal benefit of the doubt. You deserve it. Other people deserve it. And you don't have to defend yourself against any attack if you know it's not true. And if people won't stop the false accusations, they are not coming at you in good faith. End the conversation. And I have to end this show. Liana at nottherapyshow.com. Nottherapyshow.com is the website. At nottherapy on social media. Hope you enjoyed my totally pantsed, with a few notes, episode of the show. I'm confident enough, 159 episodes in to do it. Thanks for watching listening. Ugh. Almost right at the end. Anyway, thanks for listening. You're crazy is only a problem if it's hurting you. See you next time.